You play some of the shittiest games, Blake. Hey, welcome to episode 196 of Front Seat Gamer. I'm here with Blake.
Hey.
And that's it. As always, just two people, 2 weeks after the previous podcast. Perfect consistency. Don't listen to any other episodes because what I told you is true. How you doing, Blake?
Pretty good. Good. Not
good.
too bad.
Yep.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm fine. It's been a longer 2 weeks.
It has.
It felt long.
It's felt like over a month, but it has just been those. It's sometimes they say what a year's worth of things happen in like a week. It's just
decades
like that.
happen in a week and weeks happen in a decade.
Sometimes a month happens in 2 weeks.
Whatever it is. Yes. And sometimes it feels like there's fewer people in a room.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But there never is. There's never fewer people in a room. That's the saying.
There's only ever been two people.
Yep. We've been starting off with questions lately. Should we kick off with some questions?
Do it.
All right. This is from Fuwasan. They say, Blueprints made me feel like a character in the average H.P. Lovecraft novel. By the end, I despised the game, but I had to finish it to get rid of my obsession.
Since we had that Blueprints episode, I have flip-flopped on... I've gone from hating it. I've gone from hating it and uninstalling it to...
Uninstalled it?
Yep. Well, I've uninstalled it now. But I've gone from hating it and uninstalling it, then 10 minutes later reinstalling it and playing again for like several hours.
Oh,
and
boy.
then like getting annoyed with it again and not playing for a while and then just thinking about it constantly and then going back and playing it. I've flip-flopped so much on like hating it and loving it.
I really like that game. There are things about the game I don't like, but one thing I love about that game is the depth of the scope into the world. And the way it slowly opens up.
This is what I love as well, and that's everything that I'm thinking about is about that.
Yeah.
And then what makes me hate the game is going through the RNG stuff.
Yeah.
Over and over and over. And that, I feel like that stuff is getting in my way of enjoying the things I actually want to enjoy now. I
am of the opinion that there is a certain amount of that game you should absolutely play without any Googling.
Oh, yeah.
Go as spoiler-free as you possibly can and enjoy that journey. And then there comes a point where Googling enhances your enjoyment so much.
Yeah. Well,
or at least the communal effort aspect of like figuring out, looking at, checking things, checking your theories rather than having to do the same run 18 times to get the RNG you need kind of thing.
Oh, my God. Doing that for a long time, all I was doing was filling out the room letters.
Yep.
Even that is annoying because there are rooms like, especially the top corners, that sometimes I've had runs where I just don't even get there.
Yep.
And for ages, it was like these were the only ones that I didn't have.
Yep.
And I didn't realize how sort of key almost every sort of line is.
Well, yeah, sure.
I mean, there were words that I figured out because, I can see what letters I'm missing. But those top ones...
Yeah, you do kind of need them.
Yeah, I didn't know those.
Should we go on to the next question? Or do you have more to talk about on Blueprints?
No, I mean, I have uninstalled it now. Because
I haven't played it in about 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I'd say. Friend of the podcast, Carl, played it a lot and he got very deep. He got just a little bit past where I'm up to. And then he said, I've finished it. And I know for a fact that there's more game after that. And I think he knows for a fact there's more game after that. But he basically is like, no, I've finished it. I'm done. I'm not going any further.
It is the RNG at that point, right? That is just like slowing you down. Because you've told me that like you knew what you needed to do, but in order for you to progress, the RNG had to line up perfectly for
certain
like
elements,
several days in a row. And like at that point, it doesn't feel like... It feels like you're just... For a game about puzzles, some of them feel like you just roll the dice and you get the answer.
If you want to hear the specifics, I can make a funny noise, and then we'll talk to the specifics, and then I'll make a funny noise when I'm done talking specifics
all right,
for
do it.
people who want to avoid these spoilers. Okay, here's the funny noise. So I'm up to a part where I have to bring specific items to a specific location, which is a room I have to draft within a specific number of steps.
Oh, God. That sounds so annoying.
Yeah. And then after that, I have to draft specifically 8 blue rooms in a row. And then that unlocks a door.
Yeah.
And there's some stuff that happens after that.
Right.
And that's what Carl did.
Yeah.
And I know what I have to do, and I know it may take me a while. So I have to I don't have the time at the moment. Yeah. I don't really have the willpower at the moment or the desire at the moment. At some point I may kick back in. But I know that there is a whole thing after that where there's a whole different kind of puzzle that eventually opens up an actual labyrinth and some other. Yes, there's a whole area, a whole other area neither of us have ever seen.
But it's hidden behind a ridiculous amount of this.
I don't know if it's RNG. I need to look into it, but I don't know. I think this one, in theory, maybe I could start chipping away at it. But like I said, there are goals I already have that I haven't dealt with.
Yeah,
that take a while. So
yeah,
yep.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Welcome back.
That's great. That'll be very easy to see on the
on the timeline.
timeline.
All right. Agency Chi 9327 says the Switch pricing is absurd, frankly. I understand the issue with profits totally, but if the issue is that not enough people are buying your product, you don't increase the price of your product. Ridiculous. Really annoying because I have kids and Nintendo has always been the family console. I'm probably just going to build a cheap computer for Steam Link at this point instead. Will cost about the same, give or take $100. But the kids' games on Steam cost about $10 a pop during a sale. While I understand that viewpoint, my prediction that this was the new norm for game pricing has basically come true already. We're already seeing Xbox being like, yep, $80 games, and Sony's already doing it. Games are coming out on Steam at that price point. I get it. I understand why that's frustrating. I have got kids as well. Nintendo has been the family console. I maintain... Look, I don't want to pay more for games. I get it. But Nintendo games, first-party Nintendo games, are very polished.
Yeah.
They're good, if not great, if not amazing games, without a doubt. They have had almost no duds in decades, maybe. A first-party Nintendo game being a dud would be crazy. So, when you're buying an $80 Nintendo game, at least you kind of have some confidence that it's going to be a really good time and that your kids are going to probably at least muddle their way through it because they have a lot of accessibility features. Whereas a Steam game...
Yeah.
Okay, put it this way. I recently bought Psychonauts 2 on Steam.
Oh, yeah.
So, Psychonauts 2 is a action platform adventure game. I really like the original Psychonauts. I'm enjoying Psychonauts 2. It is not polished. There are bugs, there's jankiness, there's whole story elements where if you talk to an NPC in the wrong order, they don't acknowledge that. So basically, I talk to this NPC and my character's like, mom's looking for you. And okay, fine. And then I go talk to my mom and my mom is like, in the game, of course.
Yeah. In the game? You mean
yes, my in-game mommy. In-game mommy's like, can you go find this character? And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But I've already done that.
Yeah.
So Mike was... Now, admittedly, the character is literally psychic.
Oh.
So you could maybe say that's what's going on, but that's not what's going on. It's just that they did not do the scripting in the right order.
Yeah.
They didn't do these checks and didn't do the flags properly. That's just a lack of polish. They didn't account for people doing things out of order.
Yep.
In a Nintendo game, this does not happen. They do the work to smooth out all these rough edges.
Yeah. I think I mentioned on the last episode, right, that I have this. My thought is that those games are like there are premium games.
Yeah.
That are just at a higher quality, and it's not necessarily always it's not necessarily just AAA being like, oh, it's a AAA game from a AAA studio. That means it's this quality.
Yeah.
Because clearly that isn't true.
Yeah.
But there are games that are that you can trust that are of this quality that deserve that price, and first party Nintendo games are that.
Yes.
They
may not look as pretty as your Ubisoft AAA games, and that's just a hardware thing, right? They are built to run on a Nintendo console, and a Nintendo console is last generation hardware.
But it's subjective, right? Because like those Mario games look amazing.
The art direction is always phenomenal. But you're not.
But it's okay. Yeah, it's not like hyper real.
They're not going to have
ray tracing and all that.
Exactly. They're not pushing the boundaries of graphical fidelity.
No. They focus on the actual game design and like making sure all of that is as enjoyable and working properly.
It becomes a question of, do you want to pay for like your Assassin's Creed on launch day at $60 or $70 which is going to be a buggy mess, and it's going to be your typical open world sort of
schlock. Yeah.
Like, oh, there's a thing I can talk. I climb a tower. I do some quests.
I unlock a region. I look at that region. There's a million check mark.
Yeah. Oh, it's a bunch of collectibles. Or do you do the Zelda, which is functionally a lot of the same elements: towers to climb, collectibles, but very few bugs by comparison. Like no one's mouth is flying out of their face. That there's no floating eyeball.
Yeah, no floating eyeballs.
And some of the best like feeling, movement, and combat and puzzles in games. I would rather pay a little bit extra and get a game that is I feel confident it's going to be exceptional than a game that is still expensive and pretty at times and horrifying at times because of all the weird bugs.
Yeah. And I think there's 100%. Yeah, this is 100% why people have a problem with a higher price point now, because so many AAA games have released, just as you say, with like floating eyeballs and all these problems. So they're like, why am I paying this much for a unfinished buggy mess?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you've got Nintendo there making highly polished stuff that is at a higher price, but they also, because the general feeling of gamers is now that things release buggy, that they kind of get tarred with the same brush.
Now, is Nintendo a good ethical business? No. Let me be clear. I am not shilling for Nintendo. Nintendo as a business, they have plenty of predatory elements. Sure. Like they constantly re-release the same games. Oftentimes they will put out an improved version of a game in a generation and then not put out that improved version of that same game in the next generation. And they'll
what's the worst thing that Nintendo's done?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I don't know.
What was that?
Look, they're pretty predatory in their lawsuits. They're like,
I mean, yes, all their like copyright.
Yeah,
like there was a while that
they were striking people who were just showing gameplay and playthroughs, and like
they were notorious.
While I understand that, the theory that like someone watching someone play through a game may not buy the game and therefore it harms your business, someone not watching that is also not going to buy the game. Like that doesn't solve a problem.
I kind of think if someone is watching something and they're not going to buy it, they probably didn't have an intent to buy it in the first place.
Exactly.
But if you would catch more people, you would get more people wanting to buy the game from watching it than just like not having it at all.
Yes. I would say that the Nintendo Online subscription is pretty gross, but it's also standard. Like Microsoft and Sony also have online subscription services. Why in 2025 just having an internet connection is not enough is beyond me.
Yeah, no.
But in Nintendo's case, it's kind of particularly egregious because, like, I have Super Mario Maker 2. It is a game where you can build a Mario course and play it, and you can play other courses that other people have made. Unless you don't have a Nintendo Online subscription, in which case you can only do the first half of that. They've got their own Mario levels and stuff, but like if I wanted to go and play something that someone else had made, I have to be subscribed to their online service. And that's the whole point of that game is to play the game, the levels other people make.
I think they're because they have their whole catalog of their older games like Nintendo and Super Nintendo and all those games.
Yeah.
You still have to be part of their subscription thing, right? To
play those.
Get those.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is something that surprised me because I was like, oh, I'll go to the Nintendo store and I'll buy some of the old ones. And I just
you can buy them. You can buy some of the games. I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure when I went,
yeah,
it said you can only buy it if you have a subscription.
So you can buy old games, but they may not be the same old games that are part of the subscription service.
Right.
If that makes sense. You could buy, for example, a pack of old Castlevania games.
Okay,
but you might not be able to buy the Castlevania game that is on the Game Boy that is part of the Game Boy subscription.
Yeah. See, I was looking at the old Mario ones, which are most definitely in that subscription.
Yes.
I did buy an old game there that was like, I don't know how Nintendo had the rights to it. It was a game called Gods, and it was on... it was one of the first video games I ever played on a friend's PC, and it was like you were this guy. It was a 2D platformer, and you were like a God of War type guy, like a Kratos, big muscle man.
Okay,
and you threw knives.
Okay,
and then you picked up power ups that then allowed you to throw knives in different patterns and like different types of things. You know that kind of like different attacks, and you were just like jumping. You're like jumping and walking and climbing through like this platformer city thing, and then you fight like a giant like these like big suits of armor, like Titan things, and then you just go through. And it was like one of the first games I ever played.
Yeah,
and they did a remaster of it.
Okay.
Randomly, it's like I don't know anyone who knows this game, but they did a remaster of it, and you can get it on the Nintendo store.
Okay,
and you can switch between the old and new. Yeah, and I just played the whole thing on the old version.
Yeah, was it good?
Not really.
Yeah, look, I had the Nintendo subscription. I even had the expansion pass where it's like you'd get the Nintendo and Super Nintendo games, but then you'd also get like Sega Genesis and Game Boy and Nintendo 64 games as well.
Yeah.
And so I had like access to all those things. And the thing that really stuck out is, broadly speaking, games have gotten way better.
Oh, hell yeah.
There are still some classics. There are still some bangers.
Yeah.
Those old Zelda, those like actually all the old Zelda games, with maybe the exception of the NES ones, are still 100% fantastic, fun games to play.
Yeah.
The Mario games are all great.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
There's probably some other ones, but like you play some of those some of those NES weird RPGs where it's like you start off in a town and you have no direction, and you go in a door and someone kills you straight away, and it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, it's like, hey, put in another quarter.
Should have known that wasn't the door to go in, you dumb idiot.
This is some very Dark Souls. What you're saying?
Oh boy!
Open a door and die and say you should have known.
Do not get me started, because they had that whole expansion that came out.
Oh man, I've seen people on streamers that I follow who loved Elden Ring actually starting to say that is too hard. That they do not like that.
Oh, maybe they should get good.
Yeah, they should. Maybe they should.
Or maybe this is just a bad game. Anyway.
Yeah. on the topic of old games. A few years back, I got a load of like old Sega consoles.
Yep.
And a load of games, and we plugged them in at work and just played a bunch of them.
Yep.
We had like what's it, that Mickey Mouse Illusion?
Oh, that's a great one.
That was so good, but man, is it hard?
Yeah.
And like that, this is the thing that we found, is that a lot of them really brutally hard.
Yes.
And yes, some of them are just like there's modern, not even modern. This is stuff that was, I'm sure, figured out over 20 years ago, just game design wise. There were things where you were taking I can't remember what game it was. Maybe it was like Wonder Boy 1 or something.
Yeah.
But there was like parts where it's just like you just got to jump off screen and you have no idea if you're going to land anywhere.
Yep.
And you do that, and there's like a little ledge that you cannot see until the next screen down.
Yes. And you have maybe a fraction of a second to maneuver.
And it's like, this is some bullshit design, man. Like, what is this?
Yeah, no, there are definitely some games where
That's just it's
muscle memory
Yeah,
and trial and error,
yeah.
and that's all you can do.
And it's that thing of like, as a kid, if that was your only game, you just played it and you just learnt everything, muscle memory, and that was it. You just thought, this is fine. This is the game.
Yep.
You wouldn't.
Well, you didn't have another game to play.
Yeah, you didn't have another.
That
game.
was your game. That was your Christmas present.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Like,
you just say, this is just what I'm doing.
Yep. And you got really good at it.
Yeah.
And you eventually beat it.
Yeah. But then you grow up and you think like, oh man, that game was so good. I'm going to go back and play that. And you start playing it. You're like, this game is bullshit.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah. But there's also some great old games.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Just, I would argue that they are few and far between. When you actually go back and play some of those old games, you remember fondly, you think, actually, no.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what game I still think is fantastic. And admittedly, I have not played it in a long time. And I was really hoping it would come out on the Switch subscription thing.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, it never did. But it was the first Wario Land game.
Oh, okay.
So it was called Super Mario Land 3.
Yeah.
Wario Land.
Oh, weird.
This is the first game where it was like Wario's
When
game.
was that? 90s?
I got it in 1993 or 1994.
Oh, whoa.
And it was a Game Boy game, and it was awesome.
Oh, yeah. It was a game. Was it just only on Game Boy?
Yep.
Yes. I think I do remember that.
You would pick up different, you weren't exactly picking up hats. I think it was like you'd get like a gourd or something, or you'd get like some sort of fruit or a vase or something like that. And it would change what your hat was.
Okay.
And
interesting.
There was like a rocket hat. There's a hat that would make you charge. There's a hat that would make you charge even further. There was a hat with horns that you could stick into like the roof.
Yeah.
And then it was just on its surface level, it was just like a platformer game.
Yeah.
Where you charge into enemies and they drop coins. And at the end of every level, or most of levels, you'd have to have enough coins to get through the door. That was like kind of a challenge.
Yeah.
And like on its surface, that's kind of what the game was. And for whatever reason, at the end of every level, they would like put all your coins in a bank account, sort of thing.
Okay.
And then at some point, you may find a key. And you might not know what that key is for. And you might beat the game, and the end boss is a genie, and the boss fight's really fun where you have to throw the lamp around to make a cloud appear so you can jump on the genie's head. It's a great little boss fight. And then turns out the whole game is just Wario's wishing for a house. And the genie needs to be paid for the house because I guess this is a 21st century genie actually, and everyone's trying to make their dollars. So like he deducts all of the coins from your bank account and gives you a house based on how many coins you had.
Oh, funny.
And if you've just sort of played through the game, I guess as in its mainline path, you end up with like a birdhouse or something tiny, and Wario's not super happy.
Yeah.
But then it starts showing that some of these levels are flashing. And turns out those keys you might have found open up doors to treasure chests, and there's 40 of them, all hidden throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
And the more treasures you collect, they sell them at the end, and the more money you make, the better the house you get.
Ah, cool.
And like also the more coins you get in each level, the better the house you can get. What a great game!
Yeah.
There's a lot of depth to it, and quite a surprising amount of exploration and little secrets.
That's cool.
From 1994, and it felt like a good game to play as well.
Yeah.
Some really revolutionary levels in that game. Nobody remembers this game. It was the first Wario game. It's great. Actually, technically, Mario Land 2 was the first Wario game because he was the boss. But Wario Land 3, awesome game. Should we ask the next question?
Yep.
Amongolin says, on the note of Doom of the Dark Ages, I'm really confused what happened with the pricing there. For the majority of the game, it's going to be the same amount. For the majority of the games, it's going to be the same amount in USD versus Euro, e.g. 60 Euro and 60 US, even though 1 Euro is 1.14 US dollars right now. However, for whatever reason, Doom is $70 in the US and 80 Euro in the European Union, which converts to 90 US, i.e. 28% more expensive. In the meantime, I don't remember when was the last time I bought a game for more than $30. I got a bunch of games in my backlog and a healthy wish list, mostly indie stuff. Whenever something goes on 50% discount, I just grab it to play it later at some point. When it comes to games, recently I bought a mini game called Talented, a roguelite where you just stand in the middle of the screen and fight waves of monsters coming from 4 directions. The twist is that there's a massive skill tree in it that is randomized for each run. For $4, it's more than worth it. Cool.
Yeah, I looked up that game. It actually looks pretty neat. It's like four conveyor belts, basically just coming at you.
Oh, okay.
And you just have to.
That sounds interesting. I think I would probably want some motion I don't know. To me sounds like there's a game called The Tower, which is like a single tower defense tower game where like there's a tower in the middle and things come from all directions.
Yep.
And all you're basically doing is upgrading the tower.
I feel like this game just really like boils down an action RPG to its like most bare.
Yeah.
Like
it's Vampire Survivors, but without movement.
Yeah, but without movement.
Things.
Yeah.
And with a skill tree. Well, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
I mean, it's definitely a cool like
for $4.
Tapper,
Sure.
Yeah.
But more to Amongolin's core points about pricing. Yeah, pricing is all over the place. Ultimately, publishers get to make up the price, and
I think they just push it with what they think people will pay for. And like Doom was a hyped enough game. Yeah, they're like, we can push this higher.
Yep,
and people still bought it.
Heard it's a very good game.
It is. I mean, talk about like highly polished.
Yeah, I played it.
Yeah. It's actually. It's really great. It's really, really good.
Did you play the other Doom?
I played the first one. I didn't play the second one.
So a common thing I hear is people loved the first, like the Doom 2016. They were like, that game was fantastic. And then Doom Eternal?
Yeah.
There's like, I liked that one, but I didn't like it as much as Doom 2016.
Yeah.
And I've beaten both, and I do not know what they're talking about because Doom Eternal was so fun.
Yeah.
I loved the like high mobility.
Yeah.
I loved the sort of puzzly elements of the combat.
Yes.
I loved how dynamic it felt and how I was constantly engaged in what I was doing and what my enemies were doing.
Yep.
And I think people, my assumption is
they just want to shoot stuff.
They want the old school grind your monsters down with your weapons. Who cares?
Yeah.
And I get that, but like that wasn't. I really appreciated what the stuff they did with
this one is definitely along the lines of Doom Eternal then because they're like combat encounters feel almost more like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Because there's different enemies that like everything you can just gun down.
Yeah.
I mean that's just a given. No matter what, everything can be gunned down eventually. It's just there are optimal ways of killing stuff by doing certain things that are the weakness of that type of monster.
Yes.
You know, so there's guys with like these shields.
Yeah.
And you can spray bullets at them for ages, and you'll eventually kill them. But if you spray bullets at them, their shields like heat up, and then you have a shield, and if you frisbee your shield at the one that's heated up, it does a chain effect and like basically kills the whole pack of them. So it's so satisfying. And then there's guys with these like energy shields.
Yeah.
And you try to do the same thing, but it doesn't work. But what they are weak against is that there is an energy gun that literally one bullet will like have an effect on the shield and just blow up the whole pack.
Nice.
And it's got lots of different things like that, and it's got this shield and a parry mechanic, so that any sort of green attack that any monster does can be parried.
Yeah.
And then that weakens them, and then you can just like, so you go into these like encounters, and it's like a puzzle of how to like handle all these different monster packs, but your brain gets into almost this flow state where you're not even really thinking too much about like.
That's what I loved about it. Was you get to a point where you are one with your keyboard.
Yes, it feels like that.
It is. you are analyzing the battlefield, and your movement is like so on point, and you feel like an unstoppable ninja with guns.
And I really like with this parry thing because I when I saw that there's a parry thing, I was like, oh no, I'm notoriously.
I've heard it's very
bad.
Forgiving.
It is very forgiving, and you can like. I'm pretty sure there's a setting that is just parry thing, and I just cranked that way the hell up because like I'm shockingly bad at parrying. So I've never in Dark Souls and Elden Ring, I just like don't even try.
Yeah,
like I've never been able to get it. But yeah, with the parry thing, and when it's just like signaled anything with green, you basically get into this like you don't even think about it anymore. It's just a reflex. As soon as you green parry, and then parry, and suddenly
that's Cuphead. What you're describing is Cuphead.
Is it?
Yeah, Cuphead has pink bullets that you can like do spin attacks on.
Yeah.
To generate like energy, basically.
Right.
So like color coded bullets. I don't know. Cuphead was probably not the first one to do it, but it is sort of notorious for it.
Okay, but I'm saying that you're not even like you say you just become one with like your keyboard, and you're not even thinking, oh, I need to parry that. Oh, I need to parry that. It's just like it just happens.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's so great and so satisfying. And then when the fight is over, you kind of come out of this like state and you're like, oh my God,
I did it.
what was that? That was incredible.
I am so stoked to get that game on sale.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about some of the games we've been playing.
Sure.
I think I mentioned it 2 weeks ago, which was when the last time we talked.
Yeah.
And when it was just the two of us.
Yep. It was like 14 days ago.
Yep. That's 2 weeks. I think I mentioned a game called Eldrum Black Dust. Is that what it's called? Black Dust?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And it is like a sort of a choose your own adventure, but also RPG with exploration and items and some build stuff. I played and beat it, and I started another one.
Yeah.
I really liked it, but I think that there are some core flaws.
I've just bought this. You're gonna turn me off buying it now? Yeah, I just bought
paid
it.
Money? How much?
It was like $5.
Oh, well, I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to spoil anything.
Yeah.
But I will say there's a lot of combat.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of ways to avoid combat, but there are certainly times when it feels like combat is unavoidable. And the stats, you can assign stats to one of different 5 attributes. Like I think it's strength, resilience, charisma, agility, and perception, if I remember. And each of those will like open up different options within the world. Like if you've got more agility, you might be able to like climb somewhere you can't otherwise.
I see. Yeah.
If you've got strength, you might be able to, break through a wall.
And this is all through text, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
However, combat really, really, really cares about strength and resilience.
Right, I see.
More than strength is like the primary combat stat, and resilience is kind of your secondary combat stat, and then like agility is your tertiary combat stat, and then there are 2 stats that have nothing to do with combat.
So if you're putting stuff into other things because you want to be, that's your
if
place.
you want to be a little kind of a rogue,
Yeah.
or like a bard kind of character, and sort of make your way through the world peacefully, outwitting people and talking to people and doing stuff,
singing a song,
you might go okay, but you're probably going to run into some combat encounters, and it's going to be brutally hard or impossible.
Right. Yeah.
And that is the biggest problem with that game is you can just kind of, without knowing, build yourself into a corner that is extremely hard to escape from.
Are these essentially like gated things? Like, or can you go to other places and, I don't know,
It depends. I think there are some, there are probably, I might be wrong.
Yeah.
But in my experience, there are certain areas where it's like you're kind of funneled into a combat encounter.
I see.
And, you might have had a lot of time to explore before, and you can probably re-explore some of those areas after or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's this point where it's like, now you're in the mess.
Yeah.
And you just have to deal with it. And I think the big issue here is the balance, especially in the early game, is bad because 1 or 2 points in one of these combat attributes makes quite a big difference. And so if you haven't done it, you lose. If you have done it, you win. And then later on, it seemed like they kind of accounted for a broader mix of stats.
Yeah.
So if you went hard down the combat route,
yeah,
like if you did a bunch of strength, for example, you might have no problems with any combat for the rest of the game.
Right.
And so it's just kind of if you'll just breeze through it.
Yeah.
So balance is really the problem here.
I see.
It's like early game you can screw yourself really easily,
Yeah.
and late game you can make it way too easy.
Huh.
By just assigning your points in specific ways.
Yeah. How did you play?
I think I restarted the game 2 or 3 times because I wanted to try a few different things, and because like I was struggling with combat.
Right. Yeah.
Like I had tried one where I was like kind of pure perception and like agility, and then I was like struggling. And then I tried one where it was more like charisma and strength, and I blew through it. And but I missed out. On lots of things as well.
I see. Yeah.
Part of the fun of that is when you play through it sort of legitimately, there are lots and lots and lots of things you will engage with that will have serious repercussions, and you may not be aware of it. You can help an NPC, and then they'll turn up later, like hours later, and give you something awesome. or you can kill an NPC, and it turns out that if you hadn't killed that NPC, there was like a 4-step quest line that you now just can't do. Like there's like
That's neat.
major
cool,
branches.
though. Yeah.
They also do a really good job of kind of reflecting a lot of your actions in the end of the game. So like who you helped and who you didn't help, blah blah blah. You kind of hear about a lot of it, and it's reflected back, and I think that's quite cool. But it also feels quite contrived.
Oh. Yeah, okay.
It's kind of like, well, it's pretty
and
convenient.
This person showed up.
Yes.
And this person showed up.
Yes. But then they also there's quite a cool little epilogue. I'm not spoiling anything, hopefully.
Yeah.
That will cover even more things that were less contrived. That it's just like, at the end of a movie where it's like, Jimmy went on to graduate cum laude, and
yes.
he now operates a gummy factory in the Sahara Desert. And it's like, okay, that's weird. Sure. You'll get some of that, and I think that's neat.
That's cool.
It's quite thoroughly written, and I think that's neat. The world building is exceptional.
Nice.
If you care about world building, there's 2 Eldrum games. I've beaten one of them quite thoroughly, and the other one I got a couple hours in, and I hit a combat encounter, I got stuck, and I haven't touched it since, but I might restart it. But in both, the world building is fantastic. You also, I'm bouncing between goods and bads here. One of the bad things is sometimes you just get blindsided by something.
Yeah.
It's like you made a choice.
Yep.
And the outcome of that choice is very different to what you're expecting. And this is a very common problem in choose your own adventure games.
Yes.
Especially when it's like a case of like, it'll be like, Jimmy stands there, and one of the options is like reach your hand out, and you're like, okay, I'll reach my hand out, and it's like you slap Jimmy across the face. He is your mortal enemy forever, and it's like I didn't mean to do that. I just wanted to reach my hand out.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I've played games where I think like LA Noire was a little bit like this, where you'd be in the interrogation scenes, and one of the options would be like push this line of questioning or something.
Yeah.
And the dude just flips out and is like, blah, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. So this, maybe not quite to that degree, but there's definitely times where, you think something's going to happen. And something very different happens. And you're just kind of like,
just on another side of that, I was playing, you just reminded me of something. There was a game called Wolf Among Us.
Yep.
Telltale game.
Yep.
Really good. I really enjoyed it. But there was a scene in that where the main character is at a bar, and some other guy comes up to him and is like talking to him. A bit of a like tense conversation. And one of the options is to glass that person.
Oh no!
And I thought that meant like clink your glasses and cheers.
No,
and go, cheers.
No.
And so he just, I went, oh yeah, that'll diffuse the situation. Yeah. And then he like picked up a bottle and just smashed it on his hand. And
that's
I was like,
not on the game,
oh
Blake.
No,
no, that's on you. That's fully on you. A lot of the people know what glassing is.
I should have. I just in my mind I was like, oh yeah, like cheers, like clink. He glassed him, clink.
I can see you being arrested in the UK because
you're
talking to a cop people. And you're going, I was in the bar glassing everybody.
I was glassing people.
If you go in there, everyone's being glassed. And they're like, you're under arrest, Blake.
It was good. But yeah,
so I want to talk about that game a little bit. That's all I wanted to say. The other game I want to talk about is Backpack Brawl. I've talked about it in the past. I have a lot of admiration for this game and for the developers, broadly speaking. I do think they need to tone down some of the changes in some of their updates sometimes.
Was it getting too, like, wild or?
I saw someone post on their subreddit that they were too reactionary. And I would say that's probably a good way of putting it. Or maybe not even too reactionary, but maybe a little bit too overreaching or ambitious with their balance changes.
Right.
Sometimes an item will change its function very drastically.
Yeah.
Like in subsequent patches.
Right.
So like this item does this thing. And then the next patch will be like, oh, actually it does this other thing. And then in the next patch it's like, oh, it does a third thing now. And if you are not reading the patch notes or playing regularly, you can jump into a match and not because you think you know the items, you're just buying them, building them, whatever else. Yeah. And then you lose and you don't know why. It's because that sword that you thought applies a bunch of fire damage actually just makes you faster now. And
is this all, like you say that they're too reactionary? Is that from feedback or complaints on Reddit or something?
I don't know. This is some guy on Reddit said they're too reactionary. I
But that to
really
me sounds like they're reacting, like taking
I don't know if
wild swings in the opposite direction based off like player feedback.
So, I don't know what they're basing it on. It could be player feedback. It could be their own internal data. But the outcome can be too swingy, basically.
Yeah.
So they released a character called Dorf.
Right.
Dorf. Hey, guess who he is? He's a dwarf.
Yeah, I was going to say, is he a dwarf?
I will say maybe the biggest flaw of this whole game is the way they name their characters.
Dorf the dwarf.
Dorf the dwarf. Ronan the warrior.
He should have been a giant, to be honest.
I kind of love that. Anyway, he's a mining character.
Of course. He's 100% a dwarf.
Build and upgrade mine picks and smithing hammers.
Yeah. Is he Scottish? Or they don't?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, he is. It's actually, he's a great, really fun character to play. And when he first came out, he was so broken strong.
Oh, yeah.
That like it was hard to lose.
Wow.
And then in the last sort of big balance update that they did, he has become way too weak.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that is definitely, they are swinging too hard in the opposite direction.
Yeah. And it's not always the case. Sometimes it's the other way around. They released, I think it was Celeste is like an electric themed character where a lot of the idea is like you're passing charge around different items and making them charge up, and when they hit certain charge levels, they get stronger. And in her first like iteration, she was pretty weak, and then they did a pass and made her bonkers strong, and then they did another pass and kind of found a good middle ground.
So it swings to where it should be. It just takes a while.
But the problem is they are doing a lot of updates in when maybe they could do fewer and more thoroughly test some of those changes, or have like a private beta or even a public beta before these things go wide.
Yeah, like a test realm.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Blizzard does that all the time. They have a test realm.
It's probably a lot harder to sort of manage something like that on mobile.
Yeah,
but I think that the end outcome would be better.
But how long have they been around? They're pretty new, right?
Yeah, about a year and a half, I think.
They'll
maybe a little less than a year and a half.
Yeah.
But I honestly, if you want an awesome like auto battler inventory game, I love Back.
This is the one that has stuck with you. I've seen you go through many different.
I've played
games,
waves of it. Like I played it obsessively when I first came out, or when I first found it anyway.
Yeah.
Which was months after it first came out. And then I got my wife into it, and she has played it even more obsessively than me.
Oh, wow.
Probably double or triple the amount.
Wow. Have you been able? What is there a selective verses? Like,
no.
Can you verse
However, one time I was brushing my teeth and I heard her go "No" from the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I ran out and said, "What is it?" And she goes, "I lost to you."
Oh, so you just came up. Oh, that's so cool.
It's the first time I ever saw you when I lost. And I was like,
wow,
yes.
What build do you remember? Because I remember you saying like...
I remember it was not a good build.
Oh, right.
But she's good at the game.
Yeah.
But part of the sort of fun/frustration of the game is any individual character can have a very wide array of build possibilities. Like you can play it if you're playing Ronan, who is sort of their most standard generic warrior kind of character.
Yeah,
you could do a character. There's a version of him where you just build a bunch of weapons, and there's like a thing that causes some of those weapons when one attacks, another will attack for free.
Yep.
So you can be like a super hardcore weapon thing. You can build a character that has a bunch of thorns, and so you're reflecting damage. You can build a character that's just stacking tons and tons of armor, so you try and outlast. You can build a character which is like a hybrid of some of these elements. You could build a character that's all food based. So like the whole thing is you're getting a bunch of buffs and recovery from food. There's just and he's like maybe the most simplistic of all of the characters.
Yep.
But there's lots of different ways to build just him. And there's like I think 10 or 11 characters now. And so the variety of builds you can come up with, you might have an amazing build for 90% of the fights, and then you come up against a guy who just counters it. And he might have a terrible build for 90% of the fights, but he just happened to luck into yours.
Yep.
And that's kind of the fun of it, and fun and frustration.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. That is the one that I think you keep coming back to.
Well, yeah, and you've downloaded it as of literally literally before the podcast.
Yep.
And you're going to play it? Question mark?
Yes, I'll play it.
And we're going to talk about it next week. Yep. I mean, 2 weeks from now. Exactly 2 weeks from now.
Next week. That's too early.
Yeah.
Next week.
2 weeks from now, as always.
Yeah, as always.
Just the two of us. No, that'll be. I'm excited because I love that game. I'm excited to hear what you think of it.
Yeah.
What have you been playing?
What have I been playing? On the theme of text adventures, I've been playing a game called Vagrus, the Riven Realms. And this is a massive as text adventure. You are playing as a leader of a caravan in a post-apocalyptic fantasy world.
Cool.
And it's post-apocalyptic in like it used to be a classic sort of Greek fantasy kind of world with like a pantheon of gods and all this kind of stuff. And at the start of the game, it has the little like prologue thing of like how this like apocalypse happened.
Yep.
And it's kind of unique where the gods, there was a great big empire, very much like Rome.
Yep.
And the gods were so disgusted by what the humans were getting up to.
Yep.
That they became enraged and they came down and just smashed everything, destroyed the entire world.
Love it.
And then after like a few days of this like rage-filled destruction, they kind of like came out of their like rage-filled stupor, looked around, and were so horrified by what they did, they left.
I think that's great. Great setup.
It was like it's such a funny thing.
So humans are not very good. We destroyed the world. Oh,
whoops!
What did I do last night? Oh, I was so drunk. Oh no, I trashed the world. I'm gonna peace.
Yeah, so they just leave.
So now the humans are just looking around, going, "What?
Yeah,
who's gonna? Are we just?"
And then they just left. And then in the lore, a bunch of like smaller gods kind of filled their space and that sort of thing. And now it's like that leads into like all these churches and different like religious sects that are just covered all over this realm, basically, and that you can interact with. So you're playing as this like leader of this caravan, and you're going around to these different settlements.
Yeah.
And it's this whole open world.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is basically like getting quests and
trading.
A lot of trading. A lot of the game is like based on trade. Like heaps of it is based on trade.
Yeah.
I've ended up getting a spreadsheet for the trade, because they do this thing where like they present you in game. There is a spreadsheet already presented, but it's like too much information.
Yeah.
So I've just like condensed that down into the information I need on all these like different spreadsheets, and all I do now is like go around from town to town, trading goods and all that sort of thing, to build up money so that then I can like pay my caravan, because like the more people you hire into your caravan, the more it costs.
Yep.
You have a daily upkeep.
It sounds like a trading simulator.
It is a trade. Yeah, it's basically a trading simulator.
If it was open world early access,
it's not early access.
If it was a early access survival game as on top of that, it would be the perfect game for you. But but trading simulator text adventure is also very much up. It is a Blake game.
Yeah, it's great, and the like. There's so much lore. Like you were talking about how you've got heaps of lore in that other game.
Yeah,
I think like text adventures are just like ripe for lore.
Yeah,
because
it's a novel,
nothing but
right?
like text.
It's a novel that you can interact with or whatever. So it's all world building, and they have to paint the picture. And if they don't, and part of painting the picture is providing background.
Yeah, and it reminds me a lot of like games I used to play when I was a kid. Of actual book text adventures. Yeah, and it's like the open worldness of it is what kind of hooks me. Because it presents you with this huge map.
Yep.
And you just look around at these different like places to visit, and there's like a burning desert over here. There's like a fungal forest over here, and your mind just goes, "What's there?"
Yeah.
And what's cool with like text adventures is that there can be like so much content in these like places, because it's all just like text, and it's way more like it can be way bigger than.
Certainly, it could feel way bigger.
Yeah,
it's all. I mean, a lot of it is in your imagination. They can describe these vast vistas that no one actually has to make.
Yes, exactly, exactly. That's the thing. Yeah. It's all in your imagination because they have endless graphic power because it's all in your imagination. Yeah. But yeah, it's really cool, and like, it's funny. It's like trying to explain it. Honestly, it doesn't actually sound all that great. It's just like you're just going around trading, but it's like these little stories of the regions that you like.
I mean, games like that are all about the writing, right? Like, if it's well written, it could be truly incredible and memorable. Like, and if it's not, it can just be boring. But if it takes you into the world with its writing, and it creates these interesting scenarios and gives you adequate motivation to keep pushing through, they can be phenomenal. It is just they have to fight against the fact that a player has to do more work than they normally would to get into it.
Yeah.
So if they can guide the player through those rough intros of like, this is a game where you do a lot of reading and there's not a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
Then, but here's you should please stick with it.
Yeah.
The outcome can be fantastic.
Yeah, it's great, and like, there's along those sorts of lines. There are times where you get into a settlement for the first time, and there is a giant wall of text.
Yeah.
And you go, oh boy.
Yes.
But by the time you get through it, you're like, man, you're invested now in like what is happening in either this town or the scene that is playing out.
So one thing I think Eldrum does quite well is because it's on. I think it's pretty much designed for mobile. There's not huge walls of text. They will break it up.
Yeah, that sounds good.
You know, it'll be like you enter a settlement and it'll describe some of what's happening in the settlement, and it'll give you a thing to be like continue, and it'll tell you a little bit more, and maybe the scene will change a little. Like there's a bit of art in the background, maybe it'll tweak slightly, or maybe there's some sounds that'll start playing to sort of help flesh it out a bit more. And by sort of drip feeding you what is ultimately a giant block of text.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a block of text.
Yeah,
it feels like you're going on the journey.
It does. Yeah, it does feel like getting that information in more bite-sized chunks would be helpful.
Big difference.
Another thing in this game that, the thing I don't like in this game is the combat. So they have two forms of combat. One is your caravan combat because you are building up this caravan and you're hiring workers, you're hiring scouts, you're hiring soldiers, and also beasts of burden.
Yep.
And so the beasts add to your inventory space.
Yep.
The soldiers are there to protect the caravan.
Yep.
And there is a stat that if your caravan gets to a certain size, you need a certain number of soldiers to protect that caravan from raiders,
sure.
or your likelihood of getting attacked increases.
Sure.
And the workers are to just
keep things moving.
Keep things moving. Yeah. Like if you have a low worker count, you won't be able to travel as far. And there is this whole like movement board, which is there's two maps in this game.
Okay.
There's a movement board and then there's the world map.
Yeah.
And so the movement board just has all these like little sort of locations that you can move to. Connections, yeah. And each one takes a certain amount of like steps.
Yep.
And you've only got a certain amount of steps per day.
Yep.
So that's your like whole caravan building kind of thing. Your caravan also has like equipment slots, so you can buy equipment that adds to the stats of your caravan. And then when you get attacked, you go into this. It's quite passive. When your caravan gets attacked, it's like it's your soldier strength versus the enemy's strength.
Yeah.
And there's like it's still mostly text.
Yep.
Like there's not really any there's no amazing art that shows any caravans or anything like that. It's basically still in text with some icons. And you are selecting a tactic.
Yeah.
So if you've got a lot of like horsemen, for example, you can get them to charge. You can use like shield wall or build barricades, and that affects the outcome. That is actually better, in my opinion, than the companion combat.
Yep.
So you as well as hiring all those guys for your caravan.
Yep.
You can also hire companions, and they are more like your classic RPG.
Yeah, that's your party.
That's your party. Yeah. And you can equip them with just like 2
Sure.
like 2 slots.
Yep.
You know, and that affects their stats. But their combat is tactics style, turn-based tactics, and it is clunky, and it is like annoying.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. I think it's the weakest part of the game. I would have much preferred a pure stats-based thing. Like it would just been the caravan combat just based on stats is so much easier, runs better, and is over faster.
Yeah.
And I really I like the companion things because their stats are really your stats.
Okay.
So when you're
Right.
when you're in
So it still matters who you're hiring, even outside of combat.
Yeah. So you can hire someone who has really high charisma.
Yeah.
And if you come into an encounter in a settlement or whatever, some event that requires a certain amount of charisma, it's like drawn from your party.
Right.
It's not drawn specifically from you. Although you do have your
feels
own.
a little weird to I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It feels like what it should be is you can pick someone with the highest charisma, not that you
Well,
can
I don't know.
pool your
I
charisma.
think it might be.
Imagine going to someone's like shop.
We
and
collectively
being like,
have.
Yeah, it's like, well, we want to buy this sword, but we need to get a discount. Hey, let's get all 17 companions to squish in this room, and we'll talk to the one guy.
I actually think it does probably work like that.
Okay.
I don't think it's all collectively. But yeah, it's basically you're putting your best guy forward to do that.
Cool.
Which, that matters, obviously. But then that also means that your companions can leave if they are unhappy with you.
Yeah.
So you have like incentive to hold on to these people and keep them happy.
Yep.
And that is doing their quests. Like they have, they have quests and things that they want, and you can go out and follow that. And sometimes it's super vague.
Yep.
Like I've got one guy who's like, I want to get revenge on this person. I don't know where they are. Maybe we'll just run into them.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, that's it.
Cool.
So until
maybe you might find a clue somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah. And I mean, eventually, that is how it will work. Where I'll run into probably a settlement somewhere. That will then have a clue. That will send me down this path. I haven't done that yet, and he was like the first guy I hired.
That's cool.
And so in order to keep him happy. I
promise we're gonna get revenge. We're gonna do it.
Yeah,
we just have no idea where he is.
Sometimes if you promise, like some companions will get angry if you're not following their thing.
Yeah,
and they will actually then like lose loyalty, and if they lose enough loyalty, they'll leave. But this guy, because he's kind of vague about it, it doesn't
seem to care.
Doesn't seem to care. But
I really want vengeance on this guy. Doesn't matter when.
Yeah,
just eventually.
We'll stumble across him. It'll be fun.
I don't know where he is, so I don't. No grudge here.
Yeah.
As long as we do it eventually.
Yeah, and so in order to keep his happiness up, I have been. You can give them a gift, and all the gifts for the companions are different based on what they are. This guy. He likes drugs. So I'm just I'm just supplying him with drugs every once in a while.
And you say he's not leaving.
Yeah.
Oh,
weird. But the loyalty thing, it's obviously based on your actions in encounters, depending on what you choose. You'll often you'll come into some event and there'll be a bunch of options and you're like, these are clear moral type things. They don't tell you anything about it, but you can tell. Like you'll run into a guy whipping a load of slaves. Yeah. And the options are like
grab a whip.
Yes. That is one of the options. Join them. Yes, that is one of them. One of them is like offer to buy the slaves, walk away, try to help the slaves, or like
join the slaves,
join them. Yeah, get whipped. And it's like I honestly think like no matter what you pick, you are losing loyalty with someone. Yeah. And it's like, I'll
let me quickly go check who's in my party. Who likes slaves the most?
It's the slave thing, because this world is so brutal for some reason. There's a lot of slaves are a major part of this. Yeah. Like you can have slaves in your caravan.
Okay.
I choose not to.
Go ahead.
But you start out with slaves in your caravan anyway. Yeah. And there are, companions who are like, this is great. There are other companions who are like, this is bullshit. You should like
get rid of your slaves.
Well, you should have slaves.
Okay.
And there are ones that are like, you should get rid of slaves. Yeah. So it's just this like juggling act.
That's
between,
cool. I like that.
Yeah. And it is really cool. But like, man, is it frustrating when you're just like, I know the right. Well, so there was an encounter where I helped a slave rebellion, and I'm like, it was honestly a real tough choice because I was like, if I do this, like half
my drug
group,
guy's gonna leave.
half my group is gonna be real pissed.
Yeah,
And then the other half is gonna be stoked.
yeah.
But then also like, there's the moral thing of like, well,
You love slaves. You love slavery.
yeah,
Blake, specifically, you love the real person, Blake. Keep talking about how much you wish slavery would come back.
I mean, it was. No, I will not.
It sounds like a cool game.
It is. Really
How much was it?
It is weirdly expensive.
Okay, on Steam?
Yeah.
All right.
I got it on special.
Yeah.
But I think it's like almost $60 normally, which is huge for like a text adventure like that.
Yeah.
But it's great, and they've had like a few expansions that have added new accessible places to this giant world map.
Cool.
But yeah, it's really cool if you like those if you like an open world text adventure.
Yeah.
But it's also like really hard.
Yeah.
I'm playing it on the easiest.
I tell you, text adventures can just there's sort of one of the consequences of a text adventure is because it's all kind of choice based. Some of it feels very binary. It's very all or nothing. Like, and it's like you took a left instead of a right here, you die.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's also because you are traveling around this map, you need to keep up your supplies.
Right. Okay.
So you need supplies to travel, and that can be a pain because
it's Oregon Trail.
It's it's a bit like that. That can be a pain, right? Because not only there's like the text options that are like, oh, you picked this option and some unforeseen thing happened. You can be like, oh, I've probably got enough supplies to head over here and then and see what this new place is.
Yeah,
I'll probably just pick up some supplies there or something. I'll be fine.
There's no supplies there.
There's no supplies there. Maybe it was like some horrible encounter, and then you're like, oh god, this is a disaster, and you're like trying to make it back to one of the other.
That's also fun.
Things. It is cool, and then like as you're going, you get these like pop-ups that are like, your caravan has seen better days. Like the morale is super low. I haven't even gotten into like there's stats of the caravan that dictate how well the caravan functions, like morale and hunger and vigor as well.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that they're camping and resting enough.
Yeah.
You may need to make sure that you're not overworking them.
Oh, Blake, you've chosen
You need to make
another
sure
management game.
Yeah, I know. It's quite a management thing. And you need to make sure that you're feeding them enough. And you can change, like, you can set their rations to be, like, half rations or whatever. You can set their pay to be double if you need them to,
You can assign them days off. You can...
No days off.
Make sure they've got an ergonomic chair or a standing desk.
You got to give them all... you got to give them all the modern conveniences. But cool. It's neat, and it's the stories are interesting as well. There is a lot of different quest lines that you just stumble upon, and
sounds fun.
And I really like it. It's an interesting world, especially because it's like this weird apocalypse
setting. Great setting. All right, well, we're out of time. We'll be back in exactly 2 weeks, as always. Just the two of us, obviously. And if someone else shows up, then that'll be weird because that never happens. FrontSeatQuestions@gmail.com. You can email us, ask us some questions. You can subscribe on all the normal things. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, etc., etc. Facebook, Threads, Twitter. Leave a like and a comment if you're listening on Facebook. Or not on Facebook.
Listening on Facebook?
Are you listening on Facebook? How did you do that? We don't do that.
Tell us how you did that.
Tell us how you did that. Leave a like and a comment and an explanation. But also, if you're on YouTube and you're listening to us, leave a like and a comment. We love it. We love hearing from you. We love answering your questions. We'll be back in exactly 2 weeks, as always. Bye-bye. And then, but if it's the other way around, you've got the beer in your tummy, and then you add a bunch of liquor in there, and your tummy's like, the fuck?
Yeah. The most sick I've been is probably on whiskey. That was at work. That was at work when we were doing those whiskey nights. I think maybe I told you there was one night where we were trying a whole bunch as we normally did, and then I bought like a Johnny Walker Black just for drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
is that cheap? I don't know anything about
it's
that.
It's one of the cheaper ones. Okay. I think red is the cheapest, and this is like a little like $10 extra.
Okay.
And we were playing Drawful, and we were drinking, and you know I looked at the bottle and was like, Jesus guys, we should slow down on this. We're like
and everyone's like
through this.
No one else has touched it, Blake.
Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no.
And I was so smashed, and then it took me 4 hours to get home because I went to
you were in the city, right?
Yeah, this was when I was living in the train station.
You're not here.
Not here. Although it wouldn't have surprised me. I went to the train station and I went to get on and was like, I think I can throw up at any second, so I'm going to get off the train and just wait. And I was like throwing up at the train station.
Oh, boy.
And then I was there, several trains went by and I was like, okay, not yet, still not feeling good. And then the security guard came over to me and he said, you need to get on the next train or like you have to leave. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do that. And then I basically stopped at several stops and
just
got
to get out and puke?
And puked. And then I started walking at
and no point did the thought of getting a cab cross your
No,
mind?
because I was like, I need to walk this off. I'm gonna burn it out of my system. And,
oh boy!
And by the time I got home, it was like it had been like 4 hours since I left work, and I was hungover. I felt hungover for like 2 days.
And you would have left work late.
Yeah, it was like
8 or 9 or something like that.
I think it was like
1
close
a.m.
to midnight.
You left work?
Yeah.
It was 4 a.m. when you got home?
Pretty much. Yeah. Well, no, it kind of been. When was the last train? It would have been. I think the last trains were around like 12 or 1, so it would have been. I was still catching the trains.
So like 11 or so. Let's say 11. But
yeah.
you were still. That means you still got home at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It was a good time.
That doesn't sound like a good time, Blake, if I'm being honest.
It was bad, man. It was bad. I don't think I think that was the end of my whiskey drinking.
Rum fucks me up. I think also rich beers fuck me up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think I can probably do one if I have more than one of those 12% beers. I think I start.
Oh man, they hit me.
They're strong.
They were.
Yeah, I was feeling buzzed after like the half glass I had. They're good.
They are,
but they're just very strong, and I think they're so rich that like. I remember one of the sickest I've been. I don't puke all that often, but when I historically in the last while, I've puked either because I've had something that's like especially oily, like literally drinking oil. Well,
wait, did you actually drink oil?
Yes.
When? Why?
It was Eden noodles.
Yeah.
They have these like spicy dumplings and this spicy sauce.
Yeah.
And the spicy sauce is delicious, but it's mostly oil. And I drank a bunch of it,
not
realizing how oily it was, and then I threw it all up.
Oh boy! A
few hours later. Anyway, or I remember we did like a beer thing at the Behemoth restaurant, Churley's or whatever it's called, and we had a few 12%.
Oh boy, yeah.
And I was so sick.
Yeah.
After that, we'd also had a bunch of rich food. Like it was like a meat.
Was it all the same beer, or was it different 12%?
2 or 3 different beers, I think.
Yeah. I think that's definitely part of it as well.
And they were really good. There was like a really quite like a berry one. It was just so good and fruity and delicious and sweet, and it just fucked me up. I was very sick.
I got real messed up on. Do you remember Pete? Was it Pete? Yeah, Pete, an animator. He had a like farewell do where we went to Kingsland and did bar hopping along Kingsland because it's like just an awesome row of pubs.
Another one.
And every bar, I was having a different type of beer. Like I didn't have the same beer at everyone because they just didn't have them.
Yeah.
By the time we got to the last one, like I just took a sip of a beer and then I ran out of the bar and down the side street and just chundered as I was walking. And it was just like yes, it was exactly like that. It was just mixing up all these different beers in my guts was just like, made me so sick. And they were just normal beers.
Yeah, mixing is a big risk.
Yeah.